What is today? 20th?
20th, yeah.
Okay.
Is it the first day of spring?
I think.
Technically?
Actually, I think so.
Oh, sweet.
Beats down, hot ground is rough. Farmer's Tan podcast got me feeling tough. Sweating through the days, ain't no broken plan. Talking with the folks from this thirsty land.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Farmer Tan podcast. We are on the 20th day of March. It is the first day of spring, we think. We're a little unsure.
Could be another false winter coming.
It could be. Yeah, it's the seasons are a-changing, but they may change back for a minute.
Yep.
This is Jake in the 308. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Aiden Bushels and Beef. Jared, and how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. We had the storm that didn't really show up.
Yeah, for us. It did hit some people pretty bad.
Yep.
We skirted it.
Yep. If you're east of here, we're sorry. You probably got some winter. They were talking it. For us, we got some wind.
Yeah, we got a lot of wind.
So that was about it. So I'm not scooping snow, and so I'm good with that. Yep. All right. We are joined in the studio this evening by a good friend of ours, Mr. Joe Richeson. And we thought it'd be kind of fun to have Joe on. For one, avid listener of the podcast.
I am.
So we appreciate that. Also, he is the all things water expert in the area. He is in charge of Gothenburg Irrigation and Well Service. He is the owner down there. They do a tremendous job, both, domestic wells, irrigation wells, stock wells, setting up pivot stuff and all that. And we will certainly get into that maybe some as we go, but kind of a timely episode as we're probably going to get ready to crank up for spring. Maybe guys getting some systems ready to go or whatever. But also we thought he'd have him on because he's a good dude and he's fun to talk to. So,
Well, thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for coming in. We appreciate that. We were talking off air. Everybody at this table is getting old except for Jared. And
We aging like crazy.
And so, yes, we were having a discussion off air about just apparently, and I don't know, Joe, when it happened for you, if there was an age where everything suddenly went downhill. 40 was my deal. Like everything was great. And then I turned 40 and eyesight's a little questionable and hearing's not great. And, I have to wear a ball cap because I have no hair on top of my head type of thing. And I don't know.
See, I'm opposite. I'd love to have not have hair on the top of my head. I've been shaving my head since 2004.
For those of you that may not know us in person, I do pretty well. I can grow a pretty full beard in about a week or 10 days. I kind of start looking like Willie Robertson after about a month. By the time Joe gets done with the turn rows on his beard, like they're coming back in. I mean, seriously, like you probably shaved this morning.
No, but I will say on my wedding day, I shaved twice on my wedding day. For pictures.
I believe that. I believe that. I'm telling you, if you aspire to grow a beard, like Joe's your guy. I mean, he grows a beard like a champ. I am jealous. I love a good beard. I like, changing up the facial hair and all that fun stuff. And
full disclosure, I have a full head of hair.
Yeah.
On top.
But you shave it off on purpose.
I shave it off on purpose.
I don't understand. Some of us just wish we had hair, Joe.
Yeah.
I just don't like to take the time it's been 21 years, but to get a haircut.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes and scheduling.
I cut my own hair. I mean, that's going to shock some people as good of a do as I got going, but
really, you just fire up the clippers and let her rip?
Yeah, it looks professional, doesn't it?
I always thought so.
Yeah. As I'm wearing a cap.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. So, Joe, what's going on in your life, man? What's new?
Yeah, spring hit. It starts to warm up and the phone rings and guys realize they need to get things done here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we skirted the weather pretty good. Off air, we were talking, my daughter's in Fremont and out of power and canceled classes. They could be 3-4 days out of power.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We were trying to remember, and I really hope we don't jinx ourselves by saying this, but we were trying to remember here locally the last time we were like multiple days no power, and it's just been a really long time.
It has.
We've been pretty fortunate. You always think it's not that big a deal until it happens, and then you're like, this is like a couple hours, fine. You start going into a couple of days, and like, boy,
Yeah, it's part of like we were talking with the cattle, but was it 21 when they were doing the rolling blackouts when it was 20 below? Yeah, 30 minutes was 45. Well, 45 minutes at 20 below was bad enough to freeze water lines underwaters, freeze hoses, freeze hydrants.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fortunate it's warm in the eastern part of the state that they're not going to freeze out their houses, freeze water lines, things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a mess down there.
Yeah, because I actually wonder, Broken Bow had some catastrophic power failure with their plant, one of their power plants, and I don't know exactly what all happened, but that happened right in the middle of that cold, and I imagine there was probably a lot of water infrastructure damage because of that.
You live rural, you're going to be a little bit prepared generators wise, but when you live in town, you're not prepared for a third of the town to be out of power.
Right.
It's now they probably did have water as long as they could keep water in some sort of water tower. That's a gravity thing.
Yeah.
And they could keep trickling going and keep water lines from freezing that way. But yeah, you don't realize how important those electrons going through those lines are.
Yeah, for sure. We so obviously grown up in the country, and we did not have rural water where we were, so it was just well off electricity. When you went stretches of time, you learned to be you wanted to make sure if you flushed the toilet, it was worth it, right? You didn't just flush it recreationally because, you got one flush in the tank, and then after that, well, you probably don't till the power is going to come back on. And what is really interesting about that is my mother-in-law lives in town now, lived in the country her whole married life and everything. She will still, if they're starting to talk, strong winds or ice or, anything that might put the power out, she will still fill the bathtub full of water.
Yep.
Just because some old habits die hard. But I get it because that's a good chunk of water to have on hand if you need it.
To flush the toilet.
You do. Yep.
7-8 times.
Right. Yep. That is a fact. So, yeah, we were pretty fortunate. So we were talking about the wind. We got some wind now.
Doesn't sound like it's going anywhere either.
No,
It's
tomorrow.
A few more days of.
Yeah, tomorrow they're talking gusts in the 50s again.
Through Monday.
Yeah.
So that'll be a hoot.
I mean,
You can go ahead and touch me off there if you want.
okay. I was going to say, what is your definition of windy? That's just for the context for people outside of maybe this part of the state.
My definition of wind, okay. So we kind of have a thing here, and Joe knows because he listens, and because you're listening. I can't just answer a question, but are you are you talking windy like you go outside and go, boy, it's windy? Or are you talking the kind of wind that puts you in a foul mood?
No, when you just go outside and you actually make the thought crosses your mind like, yeah, it's a windy day.
It's got to be over 20.
That's what I say too.
Yep.
And I have some friends out in North Carolina that said they put out high wind warnings when it gets over 15. So I just thought,
hey, 15-mile-an-hour wind, you dump more no drift in the tank, drop your sprayer, boom a foot, and let her rip.
And you write down 13 because a lot of labels are cut off at 15. So I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a new take on windy. It's whether you can go up and work on a windmill.
Ooh,
I suppose, yeah. So where is your cutoff?
5 mile an hour from
It's
me.
about 15.
About 15.
And makes a difference if it's gusty because the windmill head will rotate side to side. So you got to be careful that you don't get
swatted off the tower.
Slapped.
Oh,
yes. A lot of what we do, we're working off of a chair off a truck.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm I'm lazy to stand the truck up. I'll climb it. If I'm just changing oil, I'll climb it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to.
I never thought of that, but yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that makes a difference on what. And then if you're working on one that the brake isn't working and you got to work on the brake, it's at what wind speed can you get it slowed down enough to grab a blade,
which is about 8.
Yeah, about 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got about 3 days in the whole month of March
Mhm.
that it could
Mhm.
work.
Yeah. Unless you need to like either hook a windmill up or unhook a windmill, and then it's dead calm and you can't get
And you want it to be turned.
you can't get the bolt out of the stick, you can't do nothing. It's just, So extreme heat is one thing. Extreme cold is one thing. Not a big fan of snow. Nothing will make me grouchy like excessive wind for an excessive amount of time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we will, like, you guys understand if you live around here, 30-mile-an-hour wind for a week at a time. I mean, it just never lets up.
Yep.
It blows all night. It blows all day. It just blows. And, now they're talking, gusts in the 50s for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so anyway, but we had some stuff in the 60-mile-an-hour range, maybe creeping into the 70s here the last couple weeks. The sign on the signpost at the store is no longer a sign. It's just a signpost now. Doesn't say anything on it. That took flight and is no longer in existence. So that was fun.
I was going to say, I just noticed today doing some field work that my pipe pile, there's 4 joints of pipe that just flat cleared the pasture fence. They're
Really?
completely out in the pasture.
They
a
got
couple more leaning on the wires, and
They got all out of joint. Huh?
then I thought I was going by Dad's, and oh gosh, it's just
Go ahead.
I was going by Dad's, and we had a couple sets of cone bottoms sitting out there on jacks, and I noticed they were facing a different direction. I thought someone just moved them out of the way or something, but he said it actually just blew them, kind of
twisted them around.
Probably blew them 20 yards and then sideways.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we were pretty fortunate. We did not have any real damage this time around other than the sign, which, it is what it is. Did you guys lose anything, Joe?
Nope, we're in town with our facility, so no, not there. I'm guessing there's going to be some windmills if a brake wire broke or if it got to going. I mean, it's when there's a sideways gust and the tail has to follow and the tail ends up in wheels sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, and then we also see you get winds like this, the brake wire gets a chatter, and as it chatters against the tower, and it'll wear it in half, and then that's when it goes into gear and you've got problems.
And then the well can't keep up, so then you're slapping the chain or whatever else.
Yep.
And
then if you get a chain that breaks and gets wrapped around a tower leg and jerks and
all sorts of problems.
tears all things apart.
Good. Good. It might as well, right? Because in like about the end of July, the 1st of August, when it is just hot, and man, if we could get a gust of wind to pump some water, dead calm for 3 days.
Yeah.
Bottle the wind right now and release it and
Slowly.
August. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Slowly. And if you bottled it now and it stayed cool, think about how refreshing that would be, right? Middle of August, you let a little 50-degree wind out. Psst. Oh man, that
Boy,
feels
that'd be
good.
a shock to the system.
Oh, it'd be like having AC outside.
Man, it's a thought.
It is a thought. I don't know if it's a good one. If you get that to work out for you, let us know though, because we're into that. All right, so we're gonna go this way, and feel free to, if you want to talk about business, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I am going to ask you this question first, because we all know business as usual for everybody is kind of business as usual. What we want to hear about is the unusual.
The unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got you're not going to believe, and you don't have to say any names, you don't have to give any information, but what have you showed up to and been like, you have got to be kidding me? Or like, well, I didn't even know that was possible type stuff.
Wow, he could have prepared me. I would have thought a little better.
Well, and we can come back to it.
No, I had a guy out of water one time, and he said, well, the well's around the tree break underneath the windmill, and there was a well pit, and I round the corner. He wasn't with me yet. And all I see is a horse head sticking out of the well pit.
Ooh.
It had fallen through the well pit,
Oh, no.
and it didn't make it. And all I could think of was, is it The Godfather when they pull back the
Oh, yeah, right?
the prized horse head?
Yeah. That was why he was out of water, though.
Yeah, the horse had kicked around until it broke everything, and
Boy.
yeah.
Ooh, that's bad on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cold snap, we saw one here 2 weeks ago, and then a cabin at a lake that water lines froze up, and when they thawed out, neighbors saw the water running out the front of the house.
Yeah, I think I I saw a post on
put
that
a
even.
post,
Yeah.
and I didn't show what the inside of the house. It broke on the second floor.
Oh, no.
So the ceiling was sagging, subfloor was swelled.
Oh.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those.
When there is water literally running out of the front door, that is not good.
I got the guy's permission to do the post, but I didn't give the full inside what it looked like.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, the rodents you find in wells.
I was gonna say what kind of creatures you find in cisterns and stuff.
Yeah, we pulled a calf out of a cistern. It was alive.
Yeah.
For a guy, because we go down with the cable. And,
okay.
Yeah. Calf lived. We had second time was, you can't make this up, but the first time had used fresh alfalfa, green alfalfa to cover the well pit to keep it warm. And the cows got out of the corn. You imagine where they were.
Oh.
And that time it fell through and no issues. Didn't break anything. They got it out. A week later, they called guy's cow that he had written off. It was 10 miles from where it was supposed to be. Didn't find it. Found it the second time, and then it tore everything up.
Oh, man.
Boy.
But yeah, you don't think of green alfalfa when there's snow on the ground. They're going to find that.
Yep. I can see that being problematic.
That would be.
So we have, and I was trying to think now, we have a piece of property with an irrigation well on it, not too far off the river. I don't remember where that thing pumps for, down by Bob's down there, that place we got. It's probably pumping from what, like 50 feet?
Probably. I mean, your water level static's probably 7, 8. No. 7, 8. It's probably pumped from, it's actually,
right.
The wells closer to the river typically pump further down than you'd think.
Really?
The closer you get to the river, the uncertainty of the formations you
sure.
don't have near as good of wells as you would think that it's like.
As far as gallonage.
Yeah. Well, or like the drawdowns, you might draw down further than you think, that it might take more horsepower than you think.
Right. Static water being not very far. I know in a super wet year, if you dig a post hole, you can drop a post into water.
Good.
That's what I was trying to think. That well,
I can't imagine this.
Maybe it is 30 feet that it pumps from. I don't even know. It's not very deep. The flip side of that, and you cover a pretty good territory, what is the deepest irrigation well that you've encountered?
We pulled a pump down west of Farnham this fall.
That's in Jared country.
We're about the deepest in the area.
Straight north of John's.
Yeah.
I think the well is 675.
Yep. That's what I've heard. I know one.
That'll do it.
Northeast of Farnham for a while.
That's like 1/8 of a mile.
Yeah. Pump was only set at 320. Perf casing started at 300, but yeah, no, it was deepest pump we've ever pulled. A pump was 460.
The pump was at 460. Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one northeast of town I knew was a little over 900, and I thought that was the deepest in the state. Might still be, but for a while, you guys are talking 7-foot static water level and 50-foot well, and I think most of ours are 250 to 300 to the pump.
But there's times we can't farm that field because static water is +1.
Yep.
So I understand, but when it costs you what, $16, $20 a acre a year to pump,
16. Try 12. No.
and that's what's crazy about
let me get my little file in down here.
That we are 4 or 5. I mean, where we're setting grade right now is probably 7 foot to water. And you go 20 miles north town, 20 miles south town, you can see 400-foot water levels.
Yeah, it changes so drastically. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That is pretty crazy how
that's why everybody says Nebraska's so boring to drive across. It's because you follow the Platte River Valley the whole time.
Right.
You go 20 miles each way. There's nothing flat about it.
Yeah, you end up in a fair amount of terrain.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh, that's kind of crazy. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit, but unless you want to.
I thought a couple more odd ones.
All right. Yeah, go for it.
Irrigation wells getting hit by equipment.
Yeah, there's a little of that.
I got the one day, and the motor was literally setting at a 90-degree angle, like it was Matrix just hovering right there.
Yeah.
That was the shaft. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good hit.
Yep. But
that's a really good hit.
It didn't take the the pump base out, but I had one south of Maxwell where it took the shaft right through the side of the pump base.
Oh,
My goodness.
I think he had 2 bales in the front, 2 bales in the back.
Oh, and he got her good.
With a big tractor. And
Boy, that's that is disappointing. That's a bad day. Hey, Dad,
There's no covering that.
Yeah, it's kid.
Man.
you know that well we used to have?
It's not artesian by chance, is it?
All right. So, okay. Why we're talking about that sort of thing, not that exactly, but irrigation wells. So out here, lots and lots, at least in the valley where we're at, electric wells. Where I grew up, it was almost all power units. Now that maybe has changed a little bit over time, but Jared still has a fair amount of power unit stuff.
Probably half and half.
Half and half. Is there any life expectancy of the well that changes between electric power unit or between an electric motor and a power unit? Does that change?
Nope, but we're going to clarify. You're probably meaning pump, not well.
Okay, the pump.
Yep. So,
Mr. Technicality.
yep. Real technical as well as permanent property.
Huh.
Yeah. So, like on your sales tax exemption for farm and ranch,
Yeah.
the well, when we drill a well, we have to tax the well part.
Okay.
But the pump and everything in it is exempt.
Is exempt.
Sales tax.
Interesting.
Because I suppose you could leave and take the pump with you or something, but you're not going to take
Yep.
the whole.
But when I took ag law in college, the pump was supposed to be part of the property too. But
Really?
yeah. So no, I wouldn't say there's a difference in fossil fueled power because you still have a drive with the shaft
Yeah.
going down.
Do you see anything downrange from the pump? Like, and I know this isn't not exactly your wheelhouse, but I mean, are you seeing like underground? Are you seeing risers? Are you seeing pivot parts like blow apart or extra stress on them because, you click the button and it goes from off to wide open, and the reason I ask is my dad was always, just because you can doesn't mean you should. He would not approve of firing the 540 Perkins up, cranking her up wide open and just jamming the clutch in gear because, that's hard on stuff. So you had to fire it up and you run it up to like 1200 with everything running and you twiddle your thumbs and see what the neighbors were doing. And when you finally got water to the top, then you could open her up to like, 1600. And then once there was finally water in the pivot, well, then you could start winding her up. And I'm like, boy, it takes all day to irrigate because can we just click the button and get this thing going?
Yeah.
But is there some truth to that? Do you blow parts apart?
You can 100%. Yeah. Even with our variable frequency drives, there's a pipe fill mode that you can put on them.
Yep.
And it really will not fault out until you reach a certain pressure. So yeah, it's nice to fill slowly. Now I will say your power units back east, back home, were they all oil lubricated or water lubricated?
They were almost all oil lubricated.
Okay. If you're,
ours were.
Yeah, if you're water lubricated on a power unit, you want to have that jammed pretty hard because you sit there and run those water bearings and they'll get water up to them.
Yes.
And can eat water bearings.
Makes sense.
So yeah, but the slow, it's nice for distribution systems to get to the pivots.
Which, I mean, I sort of figured there was probably some truth to that, but also, as technology progresses, I didn't know if they were like, okay, so we're taking into account that it's probably going to go from, 0 pounds of pressure to 30 or 40 almost instantly. So we're going to build equipment appropriately. I didn't know, on newer systems, if you still see some failure on that or.
I would say not.
But the pump itself doesn't care.
No, it doesn't care. Nope. It's still the same exact, what you see above the ground, same discharge head, same base, whether it's electric or power, diesel power.
Well, I was thinking this question before you ask that one. That's the antithesis of it. Like on a diesel power unit, shutting it down, you kind of go slow because it's hard on the gear head if you just kill it full power. But how does an electric do that where it just stops? How does that not harmful while shutting the diesel off full speed is fairly harmful?
Some gearheads have a sprag clutch in the input side that will grab it. We're starting to see some of the gearheads that have pins that drop down start to eat up those anti-ratchet pins, the non-reverse pins.
Yeah.
Now, like some motors do have pins that drop and why they seem to be okay versus ball bearings dropping into place. But yeah, we see that. I actually, I would almost say you're better off just killing the clutch at a faster speed in some cases than letting it slow down as those pins start click, 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 click. It's eating. That's coming across. But if you could get to the point where watching your drive line and then pulling it, I think you're okay.
Because I have power units that have no clutch on them. Like as soon as you fire it up, it's running the gear head. So I just try to slow those down enough, just slowly. But then, the electric ones, you kill it, you just hear it lock instantly. Yep. I just was wondering what the difference is or why one's okay and the other one is advised to not do such a thing.
And you could look at, like, if you're on a pivot with a power unit and something Murphy switch kills it, it's going to do it that quick.
That's wiper pivots. I keep it on auto reverse just to prevent that hard shutdown. I just keep it for the emergency only. I was hoping that was gonna.
I agree with the mindset.
Yeah,
how some survive and some aren't. We're starting to see some gearheads not survive, and there seems to be newer gearheads. Is that a materials issue?
Okay.
Yeah, That's a good question on why some are surviving.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I worked for a guy into high school and then through college. He had a couple power units that were that way, bolted right to the flywheel, and you kind of had to back some of them off slow. If you killed it wide open, it'd try to spin the motor backwards, which is not good for power units either. So
yeah, and I know they have that reverser lockout or something, or should in the gear. Sometimes those go bad.
Yep. I know he had one, and I don't know if it was a failure in the gearhead or whatever. It would freewheel backward if you'd let it. And so you wanted to back that one off to let that pressure down, and then you could kill it.
Sometimes you forget to shut the pivot safety off, and you start slowing down your power unit, and all of a sudden it kills it, and you're like, oh, bummer.
It is crazy how fast those will start spinning backwards when water's still going down the pump.
I believe it.
And we do, so in redevelopment or developing of wells, when we're using a power unit gearhead, we purposely have the clutch, or the non-reverse pins out of our power unit. We call it rawhiding. So we will let that flush super fast back and then engage the clutch and start, just to try to, that surging action of the water helps in development and cleaning up.
Oh, okay.
Cleaning up.
Is there any truth? That was another one I've always heard. Oh, if you let it spin backwards, it'll unthread the bowls at the bottom and you'll end up losing a pump or something.
So I've seen electric motor think, oh, you just barely tap that button. It's not going to spin that loose if it's the non-reverse, or you don't realize non-reverse pins. And I've seen one in your area where it shot the shaft right through the top of the motor cover.
Oh, so that's disappointing.
And then had another one where electrician, they were doing on a VFD install, doing the slow fill and let it run 20 minutes. Well, thinking it's, why aren't we building pressure? We should have water at the pivot point by now. Well, it had unscrewed right at the bowl, and it sat there and spun the shaft till it burnt the threads on it. So they had to pull the pump, and
so that's fun.
Man.
Yeah, you think the electrician installed the one, he thought he'd just barely tap it, and it shot right out the top.
Wow.
Huh. Well, there you go. So let that be a lesson.
And we were able to screw it back together.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
It did.
Everything threaded back. It did unscrewed in multiple places, and we tightened it back up from the top, and
it was fine.
Oh, that's fortunate.
That's crazy. You were talking about rehabbing wells a little bit. Success rate on, and I know it varies case to case, but if somebody says, hey, my well, I'm just not getting the flow that I want out of it, what are you looking at? What are some of the things that you do to correct that? And then, what's the success rate of getting a well back to what it was originally?
Yeah, it's steel. We use explosives for steel.
I was to say, talk to us about dropping dynamite down that thing.
It's not dynamite, but it is a modified det cord that they're trying to. The modification is they're slowing the burn rate. Instead of 25,000 feet per second, try to get about 5,000 feet per second, so we get more of a sonic concussion.
Okay,
using that on steel were pretty effective, real effective.
And when you're doing that, what are you trying to dislodge? What are you trying to clean up?
So in any well, ag domestic, you've got your plain casing that's in the top water-bearing formation, and then you get to the water-bearing formation, and you've got perforated slots where the water comes in. And steel casing and PVC will do the same, but steel will get more of a harder iron barnacle over the top, and it'll actually encrust on the back side of the casing in the gravel pack.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of your hard water deposits to where
just starts plugging up the perforations.
In a perfect scenario of a steel casing where it's what they call a mill slot, that it's an open slot straight through, that energy will break that barnacle loose and get 4 and 5 inches back on the backside of the gravel pack and break that loose and bounce it. And we have a basket on the bottom of our sonar jet device that we know we've done good when we're seeing small gravels, like less than an 1/8 inch thick, because it's reformulating that gravel, it's bouncing it, and then the bigger stuff that was sealing off the smaller stuff. Gravel pack actually is a filter pack, is the technical term, because you're supplying the different size sands and gravels to filter out different size sands and sands.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And so we'll see stuff that are the size of the ballpoint pen tip.
Yeah.
We want to see that. That tells us that it's a progression typically, depending on how encrusted it is.
Okay.
You might not see anything first device, maybe a touch second device. Sometimes third device is 20% of that sample basket is that smaller material. Pretty darn good success rate with steel.
Yeah.
Especially with the mill slot. Now, a bridge slot is that it's kind of a pushed back, so the energy has to go around the steel.
It's more like a stamped out hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the energy has to go around. PVC, we're using...
Maybe you just need more energy.
Well, you can. Yeah, you can. And if we want to drill a new well, we could have plenty of energy and purposely. But that's not a thing we try to do.
Yeah, right.
PVC, we're using brushes and surge blocks, so more or less a rubber disc. So as we're going up and down as fast as we can go, it's creating a vacuum.
Oh,
and then we'll introduce some products to help with that.
Yeah.
We're seeing some wells in the Cozad Lexington area that aren't 12, 15 years old that are completely plugged up with...
Really?
Oh, wow.
With a softer material, and we're having some success with that. And we've had some PVC wells that have, like, this I can't believe went backwards kind of thing.
Really?
From when they were new.
That is interesting. So I call you today, Joe, I need you to come out, put a new well down. In your perfect world, are you putting steel casing down? Are you putting PVC casing down? What are you putting down? If I say you do what you want, I just want a good well.
Irrigation well, it's mostly PVC.
Yep.
To a certain depth. I mean, we're still setting PVC 400.
Really?
Now we can get a wire wrap screen, which is 40% plus open area, and can use PVC up top and then go to a wire wrap screen. I mean, we can even go to stainless steel. Steel is probably, it can rot on you over time, but it's the best rehabable, but it's dollars and dollars, and we're having pretty good success with PVC.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. So if I want you to come put that well in, you'll be there Monday, or...
I could be there Monday and ask what equipment's going to be with me.
I mean, you're as busy as you want to be? I mean, as far as like just a lot of business, you know what I'm saying?
It's a nice reprieve this spring not to be like, how are we going to get everything done? Yeah. We had some time to do some maintenance and some cleaning and that we haven't had in 4 or 5 years. It's cyclical. You got to have water.
Yep.
People have to have water, crops have to have water, livestock have to have water.
Yep.
There's going to be the markets change, and then it's people got to spend money and they'll do some things.
Updating wells.
I ran a radio ad one time, and we don't do much advertising at all anymore, but I ran a radio ad one time, don't operate your pump to failure. And that's kind of what we see, that a lot of cases that it's pretty well done. Water's coming out.
Yep.
We're fine. There's a little vibration, or
I know that thing's been pumping sand for a while.
Yeah. And since COVID, we don't get 48, 72 hour turnarounds anymore. Come summer, it could be 10 days, 2 weeks. Well, we're just going back new if we can, just
Yeah.
to get, or like if water's coming out of the ground, you have vibration, you just keep running. But that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it. I read a thing one time here when COVID hit that 30% of the accountants left the industry between PPP and then the young accountants not wanting to put in 78. There's more to life than this kind of thing.
Yeah.
People don't just get in the water well business.
I believe that.
And it's an absorb. Accountants absorb.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, we travel 5-6 years ago, we didn't travel. It was a big deal if we went an hour drive, and we're 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Some cases.
Yeah. That's crazy. Okay. So you're going to come out. Let's say you're going to drill me a well or bore. What's the technical term?
Drill.
Okay.
Not dig. We're not diggers anymore.
Okay. I just wanted to be correct.
We're not well diggers.
We have established that benchmark. We need to be technically sound here. Okay. So you come out, you're going to drill a well. Let's say you're going to do 350 feet, something like that. How fast can you put that hole in the ground? How long does that take?
Irrigation?
Yep. Irrigation well.
Start to finish, 15 hours.
And
Wow.
and that would have what? Like I could hit the switch and pump water that quick?
No, that's the well in the ground.
Okay.
And that's set up the day before. Pit dug, maybe some water in the pit, water string for water supply ready.
Yep.
Then you drill a hole, case it, gravel pack it, come back the next.
But you can have
days.
that part done.
You can
in
have the
15
well
hours.
completed. Probably
Okay.
about 15 hours.
Once you start that, you're there till you're done, or can you quit partway through?
You could, if someone maintained water overnight, you could, as long as you've got water in your pit, water in the borehole holding the sides.
But
open.
so you kind of want to show up and get
Yeah.
it done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Develop it the next few days to a week, depending on how much you use for drilling additives that caked off your perforation or caked off your sidewalls, things like that. And then when you develop it, that's also your test pumping to know where your drawdown levels are versus different pumping rates. And
Sure.
then based off the application, we'll size a pump for that. Some cases I could have a pump in 2 days. Some, depending on the pump specifics of semi-open impellers, adjustable submersibles, like large submersibles
Yeah.
applications, it could be 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So just moral of the story is plan enough time. Don't call you and expect a miracle.
Yeah, I will say first week of August, filled into spans full of gravel formation. Actually ran out of gravel and started putting formation, sandstone, kind of that in it. That was a Thursday. The reverse rig was in the area from drilling a feed yard facility well, not emergent, but just a planned thing.
Yeah.
Was in the area. So drilled Monday, underground hooked, had to run underground because we had to get 100, 150 feet away. We were pumping water through the pivot on Friday.
Wow.
Really? I thought maybe you were going to have a conversation with them about, have you ever thought of chopping silage off this pivot?
It was hail corn. So
Oh.
that helped. But no, that was pretty cool. I mean, that's quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. That is kind of what we were talking before. We take water for granted when it's there. It comes out the pivot, comes out the faucet, it's doing whatever it needs to do, and suddenly you're without it, and
It's the end of the world.
it is a new level of panic for sure.
I'm not in the situation of you guys pulling up to a windmill like, oh, tank's dry, cattle standing around. I can't imagine that feeling. You can sense it in some voices sometimes.
Right.
And people are pretty good with me saying, yeah, this is emergent. Get there today. But we're pretty good about getting next day, sometimes same day.
Yeah.
I can probably leaving a house out of water for over a day less than 10 times in my life.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, now we get in some situations where weather,
Right.
I mean, last summer I was at a place till I didn't even get there till dark and it was summer.
Wow.
We had a wild hair. We were really busy 8-10 years ago. We left the shop to go pull a 400-foot livestock well at 10 o'clock at night.
Goodness.
Because why not?
Yeah, then we get there, the gate's locked. Cut wire, got the top off, but that was frustrating. We didn't have the fancy Milwaukee lights to work off of, and
Right.
that's different.
All right. So Milwaukee Lights, when did you come back?
2000.
2000.
So I went to Lincoln 95. One of the texts I got, listen to the podcast and and I think I sent a text. I saw one home football game loss in 5 years at school.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
No, I put
Them the days.
DM that on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I saw one home loss in 5 years.
And it was really surprising the sun came up the next day.
But
it did.
Downtown didn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went to school to be a industrial engineer because that's what a computer test told me.
Sure.
And realized pretty quick they tried to push us through pretty quick, combined 2 chem classes into one semester, and they blew me out. I switched. I was thinking turf management, golf course kind of stuff. And in 98, business next door, Gothenburg Irrigation. My family started Richeson Well Service, and we were just livestock domestic. And 98, Gothenburg Irrigation came up for sale. Literally 8 feet separated our buildings, and I still had a year and a half of school. Didn't have time to get into the community college. So we're in welding. I checked into it and I just didn't have time. And so I decided to come home at that point and work summers and for a year and a half until I was home full time. Came home in 2000 and Gothenburg Irrigation was gated pipe and underground pipe, lots of trenching, still 25, 30,000 foot, 8 and 10, 12, 15 inch pipe a year. And 2004, couldn't get pumps turned to the direction we wanted to run the underground. So we bought a little old heavy truck, hydraulic cylinders. And hey, you pull a pump, because my dad was in irrigation pump business for 22 years before that, more on the drilling side and then managed pumps and things like that. And I'll never forget, it took us 3 days to pull 80 feet.
Yeah.
Got to go back and build this lifting tool
Right.
and then morphed into a local company closing their doors and bought a truck. And yeah, now we have 2 full two full pump hoists, irrigation pump hoists, and 3 small well pump hoists. And
yeah. So in all of that, since 2000, what has been the biggest change that you've seen either in technology or procedure and I know a lot of things have changed, but when you look back, 25 years ago, go, man, I cannot believe we used to do it that way. You were talking the Milwaukee Lights, like lighting technology is completely, it has come so far since, even 10 years ago, it's hard to believe. And where you guys are like, hey, we might be on a job for 15 hours, that's probably an important thing. What's been your biggest, whoa, that was the Stone Age back then?
Man, I'm still a windmill guy, so I still like the Stone Age. They still have their place.
Yeah.
But solar's advanced.
Sure.
I will say the very first solar panels we put in were 40-watt panels. And we could get 400 or 500 watt panels, but we can't put those in the back of a service truck. So still 200 and 220 watt panels. But that first set was 3 full bays of panels to do what we can do in 3 panels today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You had a panel the size of this office.
Yeah.
And now it's the size of the table.
2 4x8 sheets of panels to reach that. VFDs on house wells, constant pressure, but also on the irrigation side. One thing I'm fighting, and we talked through that we could get on a new irrigation well we just drilled. We can get you 800 gallons without a VFD. We can easily go to 1,000 with a VFD on a corner system, because when the corner system closes, it reduces the water flow, spikes the pressures. Well, a lot of the pivots were put in 8-inch pipe, 800 gallons. Well, now we're trying to shove 1,000, 1,100 through that 8-inch pipe is way exceeding the flow velocities. But through 15 years, we haven't had to replace underground. But when it takes 15, 18 pounds of pressure at the well to get the pressure desired at the top of the pivot point, well, then you close the corner system, cut 300 gallon off.
Big spike.
So the VFDs have been really nice for
Do you want to explain what VFDs are?
A variable frequency drive, so a computer that runs off of a pressure transducer, more or less your pressure switch, but it's electronic, and it'll speed up and slow down the motor to meet the demand of the output. So it won't make it pump more water, but it controls it to where it's manageable.
I know that's kind of like you mentioned corner systems, but also new technology coming out of prescription irrigation. I know that's kind of something that's using in that application where
The variable frequency drives are totally needed because, they'll turn on for fertilization on that, but they'll turn a nozzle on the pivot on and off, depending on if it needs water with your moisture probes and things like that. Yeah. Technology's really, really changed on that aspect. Downwell cameras, and they've been around for years, but you don't know what the well looks like unless you look at it with a camera.
Yeah.
And there've been cameras around for 20 years, but we pretty much perform a video inspection probably 90% of pumps we pull.
Which is cool. I've seen your footage from some of that. It is just unbelievable how cool that is.
Yeah, it's color. It's a different world, and
in
some cases you don't even realize you're in water, and that's the quality of the camera.
I mean, it's unreal.
Just the camera alone's $50,000.
So you're not putting your iPhone on a string and letting it down the hole. And
I'd done that to look at a cable system one time to see, but the camera has its own deductible.
Oh, I bet.
Literally, it has its own deductible.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking freak drive wells. If you were to put one in a house, can you eliminate a pressure tank, or do you still need that pressure tank to help with those surge demands? And
so we would go from an overall volume on kind of a standard house situation from 80 to 100 overall volume of the pressure tank, that's air and water, to 4 to 8 gallon, probably a 4 gallon pressure tank. And that's more for expansion, or you get a cup of water in the night.
Yeah. There
is still a little bit of ramp up. You have to hit 30 hertz within a second or two to not float a thrust bearing in a motor. But so you go from a $1,200-$1,400 pressure tank to a $200 pressure tank. Well, that can help pay for that variable frequency drive. I would say new domestic well situations, we have not put a 20-year-old system in probably 10 years.
Really?
We're still doing some old mechanical style stuff on one of your relations' feed yard. We went with a really large buried pressure tank because when you need water and it's cold, do you want to rely on a computer or is a mechanical switch?
Yep.
Kind of the way to go.
Makes sense.
But yeah, we're still doing some old style $30 pressure switches.
Yeah.
To start it and stop it on some livestock stuff.
Yeah. You said 30 hertz. That reminds me. Have you ever had a Hertz donut?
I sure have.
Have you had one?
Nope.
You want to give him a Hertz donut?
No, I sure don't.
Oh.
Speaking of donuts, I haven't got a Delight donut out of Lexington yet.
You need to.
Wow.
They closed for a bit. They were on vacation and
yeah. There's a Hertz donut business in Lincoln, right?
I do know. That is fantastic.
And they deliver their donuts in an ambulance.
Do they really?
They do.
I love. Okay, so you go up to your buddy, right?
Yeah.
And you say, you ever had a Hertz donut?
You can demonstrate it on me if you want.
And they're like, no. And you just whack right in the arm. Hertz donut.
Sounds like an Owen joke.
Yeah, it is. It is. We are not sponsored by the donut shop in Lex, but they do have some really good donuts. We like them down there. So anyway, donut shop in town here is good as well.
I'm an apple fritter fan.
Oh, yeah.
The donut shop in town
their fritters are awesome.
Best fritter ever.
They do. And
they got a peach fritter. That's awesome, too.
Yep. If you're into peach, they got a good peach one. We are donut fans, really, just in general here on the podcast. So, okay, back to wells quick though, before we get too sidetracked. And then we, we've been
getting warmed up.
Well, hang on. See, we're getting close to an hour already. And is somebody here?
No, I'm looking at the clock in there.
Oh, okay. You were looking out the door like somebody was here. I thought maybe our donuts showed up.
I got my glasses off, so I had to focus on the clock in the other room.
So, and we do enjoy talking shop. We want to talk some fun too, but I got one more that I was wondering about.
I got to sneak one in.
Yep. on an average house, what are you looking for pressure? And I guess I don't know. Do you rate that off pressure into the house, or flow at a certain fixture, or not flow, pressure at a certain fixture, or what is, are you running 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 40 pounds?
Oh, most house wells 60.
60.
But I will take into account how many stories is that 60 in the basement at grade in the bottom of the basement. Because, say you got an 8-foot basement, 9 foot to the main floor, and then another. I mean, you lose 3, 4, 5 pound PSI just from basement level to main level.
I need you to come out and I need mine wound up to about 95 pounds, because when I take a shower, I want to take a shower.
Yeah, I like power.
So that
wash
happens
off.
at times, like when a pressure switch
Sticks, and you think, oh yeah, I didn't even need soap.
Yeah.
I just blasted that off.
And that's a comment I'll say. Did you not need soap?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I want to shower now, but all right.
And
Anyway.
take that restrictor right out of there.
Yeah, it's not exactly street legal. We
Right.
took the restrictor plate off of it. But
Now, my question, I was going to hit on it earlier, but we kind of got rolling. Is there anything kind of on the farming side, talking irrigation wells, guys can do to identify problems before you get that vibration and sand pumping? Is there any inspection or things you can kind of preventative maintenance or preventative IDing, I guess?
Drip oil's cheap.
Right.
Super cheap, because brass and steel are not cheap.
Yeah.
Something that I tell guys, take a Sharpie marker, and if you're on a pivot, at least once a month, if not once a week. Now, if you're in gun on corner system, try to get the same orientation. Just write in your pivot panel what your pressure's reading.
Huh.
Correlation with a windmill, you're there every 3-4 days. You're not realizing that 1/10 of an ounce every week that it's getting less and less pumping because your leathers are wearing out.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on your pivots. You're dropping a pound every week. You don't realize that you've dropped off.
Okay.
So if
That's a good idea.
and you're right in the pivot panel, and family members are checking the well, things like that.
yeah.
And that one where I talked about where filled the pivot span, son was checking it, realized the pressure was low. That's the Sharpie marker, right? And the pressure is huge.
And then how much should I anticipate pressure dropping from May through September on probably in my country, south of town, deep wells? Should there be much of a pressure drop just from drawdown?
I'm going to say not over 5 to 8
Not
pounds.
over 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you get northeast of town, we could see 50 foot of just area drawdown. Well, that's 22 pounds of pressure.
Wow.
So, and I mean, we're seeing 125 horse motors just northeast of town with VFDs just
to offset
and that's where the VFDs are so nice, is you can let the computer maintain your pressure where you need.
Okay.
And we can completely over design the system that 3rd week of August, when you were down to 22 pounds, we can still be maintaining 45, 50 pounds.
That is
of the well.
interesting. Never thought of that.
And I do remember back in the old days, and it was north of town, shutting a pivot off the end of July or the 1st of August and re-nozzling it,
yep.
because it just,
That's pretty big in Kansas. I know.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's good stuff.
Yep. All right.
All right.
That's my burning question.
Okay. So, you want to do BSB?
Yeah.
That's a segue. Burning question, BSB.
That's what I was thinking. I like that.
Because it's right on topic, too.
I like that.
I thought of one once.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move into the BSB portion of the show. Hey, we are excited about, in the year 2025, we have a sponsor for BSB. It's Fits It Ag Works. Jared, if it's broke, fits it. All right. If you find yourself, I'm going to call it Eastern Nebraska, right? So when I was growing up, anything west of Highway 81 was Western Nebraska. So let's just say anything now east of 81 is Eastern Nebraska. If you find yourself in that area, hey, go see Ben Fitzwater down there at Fits It Ag Works. He does some really good stuff. Ag leader, dealer, service provider, technician. He can work on all that kind of stuff. I saw a picture here the other day of some stuff. If you're familiar with the old IH 2+2s, the old Snoopy tractors.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe they were
Just
doing
learned about those.
Yep, they were doing a little work on those. But anyway, yeah, he does all the precision work. He does all the electronics, the hydraulics, all that kind of stuff. If you got hydraulic drive stuff on your planter, auto steer's not working right or whatever that is going on down there, go see Ben. He can definitely fix you up. But he does a little just good old school wrenching too if you still need some of that. The last episode, I called him out, asked if he still had that old Caprice. He does not. He's got a buddy that's still running it, I think. He does not have it. He is currently, what did he tell me? He is currently looking for a replacement for it. He's kind of thinking either something in the neighborhood of a limo or perhaps a hearse is what he would like to get to replace that. But yeah, he's got a buddy. He's running it. It's got over 250,000 on that old Caprice now. So.
Nice.
And then he sent me another picture. And I don't know if this is his service pickup or if it's just for fun. I will show it to you guys. And I was trying to see, it's an old Toyota, and think like S10 size, right? And he went ahead and threw a big bull bar on that, a set of duals on that bad boy, some stacks out of the flatbed, and it's a chopped flatbed, and got the old John Deere Bud Flap Missouri air brakes hanging on the back there. And we were asking about why do the pipeliners, why do they have welder rigs with chopped flatbeds? He did not have the answer to that, but he did say that in that a dually S10 that we were talking about. So he sent me the picture of the Toyota, and he said he has a welder for it. So he's
fitting the brand.
Yep, there. He is the real deal.
That's right.
So anyway, go see Ben. Good stuff. Good guy. We appreciate his help around here. And I got a fantastic pair of pliers from him.
Yeah.
And the wire cutters on that are top notch.
Yeah.
They are fantastic.
They are solid.
We did a fair amount of fencing with that. So anyway, that brings us to BSB. Jared, what do you got, man?
So Joe, you're going to answer this from your point of view, and Jake and I are going to answer it from our point of view for each of these situations.
And you can ask tons of clarifying questions.
Okay.
Okay, it is supposed to be a knee-jerk reaction. I just about can't do it, but it's off the top of your head.
I hope that side doesn't get edited out because that was necessary. So these situations, one, there's a pump jack that it's in the South Hills, a mile off the road, full of cedar trees. And you got to go out there about every 2 weeks and something's wrong because the landowner's a little too cheap to upgrade or get it fixed right. So that's one. Next one, you get a call.
I resemble that comment.
Sounds like this is real life.
The other one's first time a farmer fires up a well and he calls you in a frantic that the well is surging. And the last one is someone calls and says they found some shiny sand in their sand trap in the middle of July.
Boy, that's right on topic, though.
I'll buy the sand because that doesn't scare me.
Shiny sand, I mean grass.
Oh, yeah. Keep running it.
Okay.
Because it's not the end of the world. I mean, it could be, but you're pumping water. The water's coming with the brass out the oil tube. It's doing that.
You've already heard it, so.
Yeah, damage is done. Just keep running until the end of the year. Hope it makes the end of the year. So I would probably buy that. The surging, I'm going to burn to the ground. And the pump jack, I'll sell.
Sell that one?
Yeah.
So what worries you about what's the bummer about the surging well? Just knowing you got to drill a new well, essentially?
Well, you might not necessarily have to drill a well. You could probably, depending on how much depth there is below the pump, you could lower it, but you're going to not get the pressures.
Yep.
So, but it's doable for part of the year, but if you're sitting on the bottom, then you're done.
Yeah, that early in the year, that's got to be a little troubling.
Yeah. But
what is this guy doing not starting the well till May?
It's been a good spring.
Okay, all right.
Things were busy. He didn't need to.
Not incorporating any herbicide, apparently.
Could be flood. There's still flood irrigation out there.
Where?
I have some.
I'm just kidding. All right.
Except it's not flood in our country. It's gravity flow because it doesn't really flood. You got to slow it down.
You got to slow it down. Yeah.
Furrow irrigation.
Yeah. Send your hate mail to thefarmertanpodcast@gmail.com. All right. Go ahead.
The pump jack's probably a quicker fix, but chances are the pump jack because it's on small diameter well. So
Yep. But the fact you got to go out every 2 weeks and bounce across the pasture, that wouldn't irritate you after a while. Well, that's good.
Now,
That would irritate me.
if he charges enough, it don't matter.
and typically with the pump jack a mile off the road south of town, you're probably getting out a cell phone signal and the phone doesn't.
Hey,
That's not all
boy, that's
bad.
good thinking. That didn't cross my mind. I was trying to make this as miserable as I could, and you put silver lining on that cloud. All right, Jake, these are happening to you. Which one is it?
Oh yeah, so I am definitely burning surging well to the ground. That is concerning. I don't like that at all. So I have a number of pump jacks anyway. This is where I've got to ask, like, is there a reason why the pump jack's being janky, or like what are we working?
No,
on?
it's just. I mean, there's no power. A solar well would obviously be a lot better, but
Yeah.
it's just got to run it on the generator, and either the generator or the pump jack itself is always something's acting
Yeah.
I
up.
didn't say on a generator.
Sorry.
You got to ask clarifying questions. Didn't they teach you that?
I hate that you got justified here.
Didn't they teach you that in well digger school? Like, you got to ask questions.
Yeah. That's one thing. There is no schooling for what we do.
I believe that.
Interesting. That's kind of an important industry to not have schooling.
Maybe you ought to start a well driller college.
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
No,
Like,
there's like mud schools. Like I went to Houston for drilling mud, like
Yeah.
characteristics of, what you're dealing with. But yeah, what we do, I mean, you got to have a little bit of an electrical knowledge and repair knowledge and engineering
Yeah.
knowledge and math knowledge. And
I mean, I'm telling you,
mechanic knowledge.
you could probably have a 201 or a 301 style. Just, hey, I got this tuition in the real world. Let me help you out a little.
That actually concerns me quite a bit because I know all the well businesses around are, like you're saying, they're going farther and farther out because there's fewer and fewer businesses around. Golly, if that keeps happening, there's no one to replace it. That's getting to be real serious.
Just remember who your friends are.
right? I mean, and look at the age of the guy in your area.
Yeah.
I mean,
He probably should be retired. He probably just doesn't out of guilt.
You're probably a young man in this business.
I am
mean-
from an ownership level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, I am. So yeah. So we're burning to the ground the surging well. I don't like that. Makes me nervous. I deal with pump jacks enough. I'm buying the pump
Used to
jack.
the headache.
Yeah, I'm buying the pump jack. I am probably selling the brass shavings because, yeah, it's not ideal. It probably will make it to the end of the year. I probably did something stupid that cost me some money there. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, that's probably the order I'm going in.
Yeah, probably in this. I don't know. Yeah, I guess surging well would be troublesome, but in my area, that's pretty rare just because they're so deep and the water level doesn't change that much. But
Well, I didn't
if
realize
it did happen, that probably would.
I didn't
concern me.
realize we were going on how, like, the chance of it actually happening.
Well, you like details, so I'm just giving you details instead of saying, yeah, same, and just piping up.
All right, fine.
Okay.
Okay, so it doesn't happen. The risk is low, so we're okay with it.
I'm still burning it to the ground. The shiny sand, I think, worries me more just because you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know if you've got a month.
There is no corner. It wore the corner off. That's why it's in the pivot.
So I don't know. That would stress me out, just not knowing if I'm going to be able to make it to the end. July's kind of your peak water use time of year. You can't afford to really be down. And then I'd probably deal with the pump jack just because I know if that thing quits, it might get a solar well
Yeah.
replaced.
Yeah.
Or I can probably haul water if needed. If it does bite the dust, at least I got a pretty easy backup plan. Irrigation wells, there's really no.
You're not hauling water.
You're not. You can't haul enough water.
It's interesting because we've got 2 pump jacks that we deal with pretty regularly. One is at our main corral at home. We had talked to Joe. I don't know, Joe. We've probably talked to you 3 different times on putting a system in there. The first time we honestly had no money, so it didn't really matter. We couldn't do it anyway. The second time, we just thought it was awfully expensive, and we should have done it that time because now it's really expensive. We have talked about putting a freak drive in up there. We've talked about some sort of a pressurized system so that we could run true pressurized live water. We want to put some different tanks and underground and different stuff, but we're still not. So that pump jack just pump jacking away. Then we got another one at the corral in the hills that is the main water for one pasture. Maybe I ought to be careful because I don't want to jinx myself here either. That one we get along with pretty well, actually. So, well, the one in the corral at home we get along with well too. But so yeah, I don't know. Are there a lot of pump jacks in the world yet?
So they don't make pump jacks anymore.
I know. That's why if we ever find one on an auction, we buy it.
We can still get the Pittman arms and some things like that, but the main pump jack, they're not around.
Yeah, you want to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sadden me.
I've got a good one on the shelf at home in case, and I think I've got a couple that you could make good ones out of. But I do remember that's something I remember you telling us once. Go to the farm store, buy a cheap grease gun, hang it on the fence next to the pump jack, and use it. And so, yeah, it is amazing how much longer the Pittman arms last if you do that.
When's the last time you changed oil in them?
You know, I'm going to defer that question to the main pump jack manager. I'm not sure when. To answer your question, I haven't, but maybe Aaron has. So we do check them. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the last time it was actually changed, though. So I can't honestly answer that. But I do pull the plugs and check and add if need be. But
you check the oil on your windmill?
I think you check the oil in my windmills.
30-foot elevation difference.
You know, there is a small board that was manufactured in like 1893 at the top of that tower. I am not hauling all 270 pounds of me up there to stand on that board. So I'm a little bit like Jared on the pump jack and that, if that windmill goes bad, maybe we'll just put solar in there. So I'm not rooting for it to fail, but it doesn't break my heart if it does.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, how about this? So you're a big sports fan, athletics in general. Anything crazy over the winter time? Anything big coming up? Spring, summer? Any big plans? Go to anything fun? Just supporting local athletics? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so both my girls are in college now, so we don't have that to do. I did run shot clock at Gothenburg High School. They introduced shot clock into our classification, and
could you kind of fudge the other team a couple seconds?
I did. I can honestly say I never did that one.
All right. You're an honest Joe.
Yeah. Yep. No pun intended.
He's never going to come back. Sorry.
No, I'm enjoying this.
Oh, boy.
I don't have anything pressing. Husker football.
Oh, man. Do they still got a team?
Off-season national champion.
Yeah, I was going to say, another one.
I heard Coach got asked that question in the press conference last Tuesday, and he didn't like that too well.
Oh, really? He didn't think that was okay?
Well, he's not a native. He doesn't get it.
Yeah. Do you follow baseball much?
A little bit. Not as much as I used to.
We've talked about this before. Love baseball. My boys play baseball. I love baseball. A huge Husker baseball fan. Husker baseball not off to a roaring start. So
no.
I keep thinking.
But they're winning the midweek games.
They are.
Which is not, that wasn't last year.
I was going to say, that's opposite last year.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, I kind of feel the same way like Husker football, right? Like we gotta be close to getting that thing turned around. Like we should be, but we're not quite there. I am excited also for just, what's Husker football going to look like this year?
Yeah, I think we got to be close. Quarterback, I can't imagine the NIL, the athletes have changed it's about the money today.
Oh, yeah.
You might sit up just a little. You're getting a little far away.
It's unregulated.
It is fully unregulated, and I think it's taken away the game. I mean, they're not recruiting high school kids much anymore. They might take 15 and you're not.
Because why would you? I mean, you can go out on the market and buy the ones you want.
Yeah. The days of the Brandon Coes going in and earning a letter and walking on and starting 3 years, that's not going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, they're almost going to treat FCS and Division II as the minor leagues.
Yeah, like the farm team.
Right. So instead of taking walk-ons or taking a flyer on a guy with potential, it sounds like kind of how it's going is, go to South Dakota for a year.
South Dakota State, I think they've talked
Yeah,
specifically about their
yeah.
new coach, Ryan Held at UNK.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be the minor leagues.
Yeah, they're just going to be like, we'll see how your tape looks in a couple years and we'll get you then.
Yeah.
So that's, just wild from what it was 3-4 years ago where you had to hit on high school kids for a program. And now it's just,
Yeah.
you're a 4 or 5 star maybe, but
Watch volleyball.
oh yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
we're a soccer family, believe it or not.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, always. Like my wife actually went to Kansas City to the National Women's Soccer League championship game. I saw on the calendar next week we got 9:30 match to watch, and
Really?
my kids would have played soccer here. If we had soccer. Yeah.
That is one of those. In my time at Co-op, we were selling for a company that the Kansas City. Oh, now I can't think of the name of the team that was down there.
The female, the women's team, and the men's team.
The men's team. Well, in general, so they took care of the field, or they supplied
right.
the products that took care of the field, and so because of that, they had like box seats and some stuff, and so we actually got to go to a soccer game down there, and I will tell you, and I don't know, is that semi-pro, I suppose, or it's fairly high level.
It's MLS, isn't it?
I honestly,
Kansas City has an MLS team.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
I honestly
and a
don't
women's
know.
pro team, but
Yeah.
the women's facility is the only women's facility,
Right.
and it's 20,000. It's not a bad seat in the house, my wife said.
Well,
Wow.
so we watched a men's match down there, or game.
I like match.
Match, okay, soccer match. Is that technically correct? Oh boy, I don't even know. I'm getting all fired up.
I guess.
But anyway, we went to one down there. To watch it on TV is one thing. It's a little bit like hockey. You watch it on TV and you're kind of like, okay, it's all right. But you go in person. I really did enjoy that in person. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, if you get a chance to go watch one, I can see why people get into it. I don't know if I'd be a watch it on TV guy, but.
And you say hockey. We're a hockey family too.
I do
am
like
getting
hockey.
into hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason
Used to be an NBA guy, but the way that game's changed, I'd much rather watch hockey these days. I don't need to watch 3 guys stand at the 3-point line and 2 guys run a pick and roll, and
it's just a race to 120 points.
pretty much.
I love hockey for probably the same reason my wife doesn't like it, but hockey still encourages poor sportsmanship, and I like that. I can get behind that a little bit. I don't want that in my daily life, but once in a while I like to hoot and holler. So yeah, hockey's fun like that. Who's your hockey team then? You
I'm
guys?
Washington Capitals. So
Okay.
my
they're having a good year.
family is. So we have 2 nephews and a niece that all play hockey.
Oh,
on the East
all right.
Coast.
Nice.
Couple play college club hockey, and one's on a national traveling team, number 1 team in the country. for
Nice.
females.
Sweet.
So we'll watch their matches when we can on.
Yep.
That's the beauty of technology, getting to watch
Oh yeah.
things like. But I've always been a hockey fan. But I'm a Washington D.C. area sports fan, other than the Wizards. But I'll call
Dallas.
it the Washington football team because I do not like the Commanders.
Really? I mean,
Well, so here's a Cowboys fan over here. You probably know. So it's a good thing you didn't bring that up earlier.
But I'm a Caps fan, a Nationals fan.
anyway.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, so the original team, when I was in grade school, they were one of my teams. Why did they go with the Commanders? Why didn't they just call them the Washington football team? That
That's
would have been
boring.
fantastic.
No.
No.
It's great.
No.
It's
I'm with
totally
you.
different, but it's
Yes.
in line.
Yes.
Just the football team? That's
Yeah.
so generic.
Yes. The Washington
the
football team.
Washington football team.
See,
I'm right there. I'm with you.
I heard one that I thought was better. They were going to go with the Red Tails, which was an all African American Air Force squadron in World War II. And I'm like, that's keeping it similar, but you can spin it on a more I'm like, why did they go that route?
I think you'll see in the next 5 years that they'll go back to the original name.
You
It
think?
could be because but I just heard the owner said he's not going to change the name. So
yeah. But I like the football team.
I was going to say, people
I do
are
too.
starting to call them the commies for short. So I don't.
Yeah, no,
So
it is.
they might
Yeah.
change it just because
That's not
of that.
going over well.
I guess
I
not.
listen to a national sports podcast based out of DC, so they talk DC
Oh, okay.
stuff. So I like to.
Yeah, follow them by default, kind of.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this on here before, but where I grew up in eastern Nebraska, so we were mostly Kansas City fans. And so, I earned my Royals stripes. Like, I was a fan for a long time when they were in bad shape. And so when they finally got a national, title, I was not a bandwagoner. I could be proud about that.
There, some local Eastern Nebraska TV is going to start running some Royals games.
Are they?
Huh.
Well, and so that was our local radio station always had Royals games on it. I mean, if it was a Royals game, it was on there. So, grew up listening to Denny Matthews and all that fun stuff. But then come out here and there's so many like Denver fans, and I'm just like the Rockies and the Broncos and yuck.
Yeah, they're getting a women's soccer team in Denver.
Are they really?
I see us going there a little bit, watch some games.
I mean, I would go out there, like, if I had, don't get me wrong, if I had a chance to go out there and watch a game, I would. But we were Chiefs fans and Royals fans, and some of that stuff. Green Bay fan. I don't know.
Going to Lambeau would be pretty cool.
Right?
That would be.
I would do that too.
I'm getting old in my age. Just even Husker football game, just dealing with people.
It's exhausting just being around that many people.
Have you noticed the world's getting awful people-y? I don't know. Is that an age thing? Not for Jared. He's always been that way, but it never used to bother me. But I'm kind of getting to that.
I was an introvert before it was cool. COVID really put us in style.
Right. You were distancing
Like,
yourself.
finally. No public events, no social gatherings. Nailed it.
Oh, man. And don't get me wrong. We have found ourselves, Joe and I have been at multiple social gatherings together, and I still enjoy that. But yeah, you start talking some like the big monster crowd stuff. I could probably do without that.
Like just grocery runs on weekends in a bigger town. That
too much for you.
Just wears a guy out.
I'm sorry, man. I don't.
It's why a rainy day on a Tuesday is the time to go. Middle of the day.
I suppose. And maybe you find this too. I don't know. I was talking to a guy actually today. If you make a grocery, like a shopping run here in Gothenburg, shout out to Fresh Seasons and Michael and all the good stuff they do there. It is easiest for me to do it at like 7 at night because there's just not a lot of people there. But I get off work. Aaron needs 1 or 2 things picked up to finish supper. I get there at 5:15 or 5:30, and it's like 6:30 before I get out of there because people stop and talk, which is great. I love talking to people, but sometimes when you're just trying to get a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread, you're like, boy, I thought I'd get in and out of there an hour later.
Think you're part of that? Any part of that talking problem?
I don't. I never thought of that. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I can't speak on that a lot because I don't do a lot of grocery shopping. So,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll buy that. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy talking to people, and that's probably what you're getting at. But sometimes you really just want to get,
yep.
You're just trying to pick up a thing or two.
Yeah.
There's no Irish goodbyes in Nebraska. It's got a couple 3 whelp, I suppose. And
yep. Says whelp, slaps thighs, talks for another half an hour.
Yep.
Guilty of that. Your wife did some coaching once upon a time. Is she coaching anything now?
Nope.
All done.
Yeah, she coached your wife.
Yeah, she did. She actually.
She was head volleyball basketball coach at Brady and starting out school, and athletics going back to Brady after the co-op with Gothenburg. So yeah, that was, I still look at when your wife was sick. I'm sure you know about the loss at Loomis.
Yeah.
115-13 is still one of the top 10 worst losses.
Yeah, the worst beatings in the history of time.
Aaron was sick.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. She, every once in a while, though, we'll get to talking about high school or whatever, and she tells stories with pretty fond memories of that time and your wife coaching her and different stuff. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Fun for her for sure. So, yeah, I didn't know if she was getting back into any of that or
no,
has any desire to, or just nope. I can understand that.
Yeah.
My wife officiated some basketball games, after we first got married and stuff. She has kind of made the same comment. I don't know that I have a desire to do that anymore. So
yeah, I officiated basketball for quite a few years, and now the body doesn't allow it. The fans and coaches, don't allow it and help a lot.
Okay, so this is a question. If I was a referee And players and coaches were chewing on me. My pettiness would start making ticky-tack fouls against that team. I couldn't help myself. How did you fight that temptation, or did you?
I didn't. No, I didn't let that really.
I know you're not supposed to.
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you didn't fight it. Like, no,
I didn't. But my mindset, I couldn't deal with people today, like the coaches on what I sit when I'm sitting at the bench on a shot clock. I can't believe like I would have been way quicker, and something's got to change. It's starting at the youth level because I mean, they're just. I read something in the Omaha area that they had ejected like 19 over the first 2 months in the youth tournaments between coaches.
Wow.
From the facilities. And that's where it starts, and it just runs over, and they can't get officials.
Yeah.
I mean, anymore at the high school levels. And it's a humankind thing. Like,
it is.
There's more to life than
a little bit of a heart problem maybe. But yeah, we actually know a local guy. I won't call him out just for his own safety, but but we know a guy who still officiates basketball games, and good for him. But I know he has talked about that too. Like, it is hard for them to find full crews, to find enough people. And so I guess, I get it to some degree, but just be nice to those folks. Like, if you want to keep playing, you need to be nice, because at some point we're going to run out of officials, and then we won't be able to play.
I just dish out texts and ejections so they have to forfeit the game. That's probably how I'd do it.
I suppose you could. We're going to end up having to call your own foul stuff. And
just cleaner.
We saw how that went at recess. But yeah, well, all right. We have sort of come all the way around, I guess. In anything else, Joe, that you want to? My guess is this won't be the last time you're on.
No.
We'll have you back.
I do have one water-related thing, is just recommend people to test their water. We saw northwest of Gothenburg a huge jump in nitrates about 2.5 years ago from, I think the referee you're probably talking about, they went from 2.5 nitrates, parts per million nitrates in June to mid-20s by fall.
Wow. Which is a silly jump.
Yeah, and we saw 40s, 50s, and 60s northwest of town, and there's a huge push for nitrates and testing across the state. And
do you see that? Is that something that is migrating through?
Well, usually water moves. We talk inches to feet a year of migration.
Yeah,
and this was like a 6, 7, 8, 10 mile area, just boom in 3 months.
So this is from a problem that occurred years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I think it come out of the Wild Horse Valley Sandhills and it. But how did it get so far? And it's in deeper water, believe it or not. It's not the top water. The deeper, the shallower wells were actually. But just test your water, nitrates and bacteria.
And we will throw this out there. Farmer Tan Podcast is not health officials, health experts. Consult your local doctor, all that good stuff. Where is the level though that one would be concerned?
So national drinking water standards is 10.
10. Okay.
But kids, expectant mothers, pregnant females, less than 3.
Oh, wow.
I would say you need to be less than 3.
So you start creeping into that 2.5 to 3.
Yeah.
Need to think about doing something.
And pre this jump in nitrates, I bet I hadn't seen 2 or 3 nitrate samples. We do a lot of real estate transaction inspections and things like that. And I bet I hadn't seen less than a handful of high nitrates. And you can't boil, like bacteria can boil the water. Nitrates, you actually increase the levels of nitrates when you boil it,
I suppose. So
it's reverse osmosis. And the state is helping with reverse osmosis systems. But we've seen some of the levels so high up north that a standard RO system isn't stripping it down far enough.
Won't take it out.
Kidding.
So yeah, just don't be complacent and assume your water tastes fine, and because you don't taste that, just test your water.
Yep, that's good advice. I like that. Yep, be vigilant. Jared, anything else?
No, that's about all I got.
All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of the Farmer Tan Podcast. We appreciate you riding along with us. If you have any questions, any concerns, you want Joe to take a look at something for you, and I mean, like I said, everything from crops to domestic to livestock water and anything else you can think of. Joe, how do they get a hold of you?
GothenburgIrrigation.com.
There you go. If you know us personally, you can certainly reach out. We can get you in contact with Joe. But you heard here, he doesn't mind traveling 7 or 8 hours for a job. So
Nope.
if you're listening to this in, oh golly, I don't know, like Colorado, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, South Dakota, any of those other places we could get, call him up, right? Like he's got nothing else to do. But in all seriousness, him and his crew, they do a fantastic job. If you do need something looked at, get a hold of him, look up Gothenburg Irrigation, or get a hold of us and we can put you in contact or whatever there. But we appreciate all the work that you guys do in the community and all the stuff you help out with and all that. It's certainly a good service, and we appreciate it. So
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for being on here. All right, we're going to pull up to the end of the field. Careful you don't step in the puddle. That well's been leaking for a while. And we are going to let you guys out. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.
Living off the land, how we feel alive. Stories of the crops and the toil we face. Farmers 10 podcasts.